At CBS the other day.
No, I didn't
No,
see
I
it.
was kind of in and out of it. So.
I was sitting in the car.
Oh,
Yeah, I wasn't in
oh,
there. I don't get on this if I don't have it. It's safer in the car. I fell into my air duct.
yeah. That's getting you in trouble.
I said, I guess it's time for me to stay home. No. I said,
Yeah. I talked to Nikki last night. Emily was dancing. They were, yeah, this weekend. So she was today mostly. So they were on their way to Oklahoma City.
oh, that's a ways away.
Yeah, that's the furthest one they have to go. But yeah, it is a little ways. But Nikki, I think Nikki was talking. He said she could stay awake from home. And Emmy, do you know what a recorder is? A recorder.
Yes.
Emmy had one of those in the car and she was playing a whole bunch of I know.
Write letters.
Yes, right. Yeah. No, I have a cousin. I called her, but and she really is doing that. You know, it was very unexpected. Her son is not.
You still think when you asked.
So I didn't realize you had a song.
Oh, you don't know. Yeah, we talked about it.
really far out. You know, when we lived far apart, we didn't want to have to go to but it's a friend who always had.
Where'd you get that nice box?
That'll work.
I think that's nice too.
I was thinking last night, Ray, you have one?
Hi, Corey.
I didn't know I was
She don't know your name. She's never gonna know this guy's name.
I see him once in a while.
You don't meet the future
Come around this way.
Not as bad as this one.
No.
So, you have your hand on shorts?
I guess this is all inners.
Okay. Well, I didn't say it. I didn't say it was a big policy.
Don't worry about it. I'll get it maybe when it starts. Right
How many? I'm just trying to have that yet. Orange and I said, Jim, that was in the shirt. Here they are. I told you years ago to get that. I'll remember.
He said, "Get your mom." Dad liked it.
Right. You jealous? You jealous? A little
I never knew
Thank you very much. Yeah. Oh, that's not very
I lost track.
good deal.
Yeah, I guess yes, we
I don't make sure I was confused by like short 6 hours. I just want to make sure I'm here to
well, you probably have just which they
I don't remember to get straight on. No, I'll be fine.
I always love
Yeah. Can you imagine not having to do it?
I know.
We just got fairly
How are you?
Good. How are you? Yeah, you were skiing, huh?
Yeah, yesterday. Yeah.
Was it a lot of snow?
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Good.
It was pretty good conditions.
Are you anxious to graduate?
Yeah, sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Yeah. I think I'm ready.
Have you decided?
I'm thinking of Liberty. Yeah, that's my top choice. Virginia.
Yeah. It's not too far.
No, it's like 5 or 6 hours. Depends on Washington D.C. the traffic.
Yeah.
So
That's the bad spot.
yeah, it depends when you pass there.
Yeah, you
So
have to figure your time.
yeah. But yeah, next fall.
Yeah. So it's good to see you, honey.
Yeah, you too.
It's her mother's daughter. I know, we talk about
Did you see the flowers I didn't even see the ones that we sent them? No, it's supposed to be coordinated with their flowers. I don't know. But you don't know.
I'll have to get one of those papers when I go out.
Yeah.
Because I always keep them.
Oh, okay.
Because we don't need to.
I didn't see that. That's great.
What's the standard there?
Right.
I think he said Dad. How old are you? I think so. How old are you? 10 of you? I don't know. 10,185,000.
Jim will be conducting the service for his dad this morning. Jim?
Hi. And no, I will not be that short.
We know.
Once upon a time, we lived ever after, I don't know. Oh my, yeah, we decided, I felt a real strong urge to do my dad's funeral, and I've done it for other people, and by the way, there is a betting station out back as to how long I'm going to be. So if there's any odds, I don't know where they are. Judy, can you put the money down? Okay, no. Thanks for being here, guys. It was a terrific response, and I appreciate you coming out and supporting us. One of the biggest things I think I heard was, we're sorry for your loss, and I'm just happy for the fact that he was part of our lives. And so I don't see it as a loss. I see it as just, we're going to see you soon, Dad. And we'll talk more about that as we go here. But today, we're here to say goodbye. That's kind of what we're doing. We went to Delaware to help watch my grandkids, and I got to talk to the doctor, and they said he wasn't going to last, and that he was in his final stages. And I said, well, we've got phones, call me. But I said my goodbyes to Dad then, and I told him, Dad, we're going to see you on the other side. And so I have to keep my promise now, and we'll talk a little bit more about that too. But today I hope that you've come to reflect a little bit on what you know about my dad and about us as a family. And if you need to cry, that's okay too. Nothing wrong with tears, and I think it's part of the process. And we will definitely laugh. This family, if you know anything about us, we like to laugh. And it can be at your expense or it can be at mine. Right now I seem to be the target, so I've got a big bullseye on the back of me. We can tell dad stories, which we will do. And there's plenty of those stories, and we would not have enough time to tell all the stories about everything that has taken place in his life and our lives and everything else. And I think we could also I don't know that we have contact with Mom, but we can send our sympathies. Mom, he's coming home, so if you're hiding, if you have a good place, stay there. And it's kind of like, tag, you're it. Okay, we did our turn. Now you can have her. You can have him back. No, we're gonna miss our dad, and it was an interesting time. But the bottom line is, Dad's no longer with us, and now we take some time to sort all of that out. And we do have to sort some things out, I believe. In our minds, we have our thoughts, and a lot of us have a mixture of thoughts and about this whole thing, about our lives and being raised by a guy that was kind of crazy at times, and a lot of things like that. We have our hearts and we have our emotions, so we've got to let them all spill out if we need to, but let your mind go, keep your heart working in the right direction, and don't be afraid to show your emotions. And they can be good and bad, because sometimes we have to let all of that sort itself out. I understand, for me, that I need to appreciate the fact, and we all need to appreciate the fact, that Dad was part of our lives. He had his faults like all of us do, and but this was not by accident. We serve a perfect God, God doesn't make mistakes. And Dad knew, and Mom knew, and we all know now that God doesn't make mistakes, and that this was all part of his plan. And so he prepared the way. We're part of a family, all of us here. We're part of a circle of friends. We're neighbors. We're church members together, and we have work connections. And we appreciate everybody, and thank you for being here as part of our family unit today. I want to start today out with trying to understand a little bit about Dad's early life. I know I wrote a few things in his obituary, and somebody came to me and said, "Dad, well, I never knew he grew up in Wabalt and Hobby area and different things like that." And Dad had shared a few things with me, and I tried to remember things and put dates together. But basically, he was born in 1933, so when he was about 3 years old, the flood of 36 hit Wilkes-Barre. Obviously, none of us were there, and a lot of us maybe have heard stories about it, but it was a bad one. Dad said he came out in a rowboat. So that's how he came out of the house and how they got out of there. And somehow, I don't know the details again, but they found a farm up in the Hobby Road, and that's where their life began. That's where Dad began his life as a young boy, and that's where he began his journey. And that journey has involved a lot of things. What I can remember, and Brad and Brent, you guys don't remember the farm so much, do you, Tammy? A little bit. But I have memories of the farmhouse. I have memories of going there. And they are not good memories. They're scary. Because for me, when Mom and Dad would say you're going to go spend the night, or you're going to, your grandma's going to babysit you, we would go up to the farmhouse, and it's dark out in the country. Millers, you guys all know about being out in the country. And we would go, and I remember walking into that house and just looking around and thinking, this is not my house. This is not home. It really wasn't. It was scary. And in the back, it was kind of like an Amish deal here, where people just, family members, you moved in. So that's where my great-grandfather lived, in the back with his wife. And all I remember is we would get to the doorway and look through the cracks. And we could see back in through there. And you would see this white-haired lady, and you would see this gray-haired man, and I would see him moving back there. And I'm thinking, I'm part of the Munsters. I'm part of the Addams family. There's something scary about all this. The stairway, the upstairs. There was a big grandfather clock in there, and you'd be in there, tick-tock, tick-tock, and just waiting for the next something to jump out at you. And my grandma's when you have a grandparent named Orville and Ethel combination, and by the way, Brock, you guys are having kids, anybody else in the family that's planning? So far, those names have been evaded by any of our grandparents. We have no Orvilles or Ethels in the family yet. So if you want points, you can do that. But there were a lot of things that we remember. The farm was crazy. We'd get there, and it was a typical farm, horses and cows and chickens and roosters that would chase you up to the front porch. Roosters are nasty, you know that? They'll chase you, and the pigs and the whole thing. I mean, we grew up on a farm up there, and it was fun. The barn was full of holes in the floor, and you never knew if you're going to fall down off the hayloft and all that stuff. I found out what an electric fence was with my feet in the mud, and my uncle pulled me away from it, and I think I would have been fried on the spot. But farm life was different because we were in town. But that's where my dad grew up. That's where he learned to bale hay. That's where he learned to take care of animals. Matter of fact, when he turned 16, he didn't have enough money to buy his first car. So what he did was he was part of the 4-H club. He got himself a little steer, and he raised that cow till it was good enough to eat. And then he sold it, and he took the money, and he bought his first car. And he shared that with me not too long ago. I never knew that story. But he found a way to make it work. He found a way to take what he had and make something of it. Dad went to a one-room schoolhouse. And actually, I had Mrs. Campbell in 3rd grade, and that was one of his teachers in the one-room schoolhouse. And so what happened was basically he decided then after that he had to go to Nescopeck schools. And he did not last very long in 9th grade, and he quit. He quit school. He never got past 8th grade, really, in education. Do you think that was going to stop him? No. Dad had too much drive, he had too much incentive, he had too much of a will to survive and be successful. And we know the story as time goes on, and we're recipients of all of that. Dad got in trouble a lot. In today's terms, he would be classified a juvenile delinquent. Honestly, we weren't allowed to hear a lot of stories until we were older about my dad, and so we didn't hear a lot about him until later. And then I found out that one of his pranks was that him and a bunch of guys would they went into the school mart, the teacher or whatever. He lived there by the school. And at Halloween, they emptied out the guy's house when he wasn't there and put all the furniture up on the garage roof outside. Yeah. Halloween was a great time to stretch a rope across a country road, make up a dummy, and be on the other side and pull him across the road right when the car was coming. So some poor old guy is having a heart attack because he thinks he just hit the neighbor kid and all it is, and they'd be off running and laughing. And the stories go on, but that was my dad. And it's no wonder that early on this morning, 9 o'clock, I had a couple of guys that knew him from when he was younger, when he started his business. And his name was Wild Bill. I mean, not Hickok, but he was Wild Bill. And, you know, he told me that there were times he had to find ways into Berwick from Nescopeck because he had to avoid the police who were looking for him, for one reason or another. I know you thought he was this nice, gentle, peaceful guy that never made any trouble. I understand that, but that's not my dad. My dad had some other issues at times. So, all that being said, it is who he was, and he is today a totally different person. But somewhere in those years, something happened. And I don't know the details on the timetable and when it happens, but I know that people from Berwick started to reach out to my grandparents up in Walpole, up in Hoppy area. And I know they reached out to other people. And that person and those persons were my wife's grandfather, Brother Eves. And there were the Millers and the Mayos and the Kleintals. And it all started to come together. And somehow they reached out to a family in Walpole, up in the Hoppy area and said, listen, you guys need to be in church. You need to become part of our family and find out what God's all about. And we're all right here today because of what our grandparents did. And I told myself this wasn't going to happen, and it's not. So I read the Hess family, Jim and Faye Hess. Faye Hess doesn't throw anything away. Carol and Lois kept everything. And this little article popped out of nowhere, and it was after my parents got married. And I know what Mom wore. I know that Dad was working in New York at that time at a GM plant, working on engines, motors up in Buffalo with my Uncle Earl. And I know that all this took place, and I'm looking down through, and I see that, Dolores, you were playing the organ. You never told us you played the organ. Your name's listed in there as playing the organ at my mom's and Dad's wedding. And so all of these things, and all these pieces start to fit in as you talk to people and everything else. And it's easy to see the end results, but it's kind of neat to see some of the things that took place. But to me, that's the most significant thing that happened. Not that he started a body shop in Berwick, not that he went to a little 2.5 bay garage and started from scratch, not that he learned from scratch how to fix a car and do all the things that he learned to do, but rather that my family found a place into God's house and started to provide the foundation for all of us. So now we get to, this is the fun part, this is where we laugh, because now we're at the part where we talk about our time with Dad. So I remember I can remember as far back living on Front Street an upstairs apartment, ducking across the traffic to a little barber shop, which I don't really need anymore much. But I remember that. And then we moved to Founderville, and we lived in a half a double on the other side of where my Aunt Holly and Uncle Don lived. And that's where kind of the adventure started. And my dad had the body shop going, and he was starting to do things. He somehow was convinced that I needed a go-kart. So him and his buddies built a go-kart. And it wasn't a go-kart that was really safe for like a first grader. And so what happened was, I remember I never really got to ride this go-kart. His dad and his friends were riding all around Mill Road and out on the roads, out around the Mason place and out in that area. And I remember that. But one thing I do remember is that Brad came along and decided he could drive that go-kart. And the house sat here, and there was a hill down over. And I don't know if you remember doing this, but I was there. So Mom's at the top watching Brad down over the hill, and Dad's probably down there instructing him what to do. Well, he hit the gas pedal, and up the hill he came, and he took Mom out. Just hit her right across the shins, and down she went. So I'm convinced he was after Mom. And a little bit later, when he started hunting, we're standing out in the woods, coming out of the woods, and all of a sudden we heard some shots over the other way. Pretty soon the gun goes off, dirt flies, and Brad almost shot off Dad's foot. He got trigger happy. So I'm convinced that he was the first one gunning for his parents. For whatever reason, I don't know what you did to him, Brad, or what they did to you, but all of that. I watched my dad be a dad when he thought he was really a good dad when he bought Brad a pogo stick. So, Brent's out there jumping around the driveway, and it was a Saturday, I believe, because I stopped by the house. Mom wasn't there for some reason. And pretty soon, down goes Brent and does a face plant in the driveway. Teeth are laying, and there's Brent. I watched my dad, and I know eventually he picked him up and got the team together. But he picked that pogo stick up, and he put it halfway up into that white birch tree in the front yard. And I'm not sure what he said, but I don't think it was something about Jesus. But I saw the human side of my dad. I saw more of it as I got older. I said a little bit ago, we worked for my dad. So he was my dad, but he was also our boss. You know how tricky that is? When you've worked all day with them, and maybe on a day when I get my driver's license, I bring a customer's card in and I side scrape the whole side going in. I had an accident 1 hour after I got my driver's license. So imagine what that was like at supper time that night. I don't remember all those things in detail, but Dad had to transition from being our boss to being our dad. He had to pick up the baseball, come out and shoot the basketball, we had to balance that out, and it became tricky. Later on, he retired. He came back and helped us out, and we got to be his boss. So that was fun too. But I remember getting up early in the mornings out in Founderville, and my dad would be sitting at the table, getting ready to go hunting or getting ready to go to work. I remember sitting there with him. He'd be eating a bowl of cereal, and we spent time. And my dad did spend time with us. He was at all of our grandkids' events, off to Harrisburg to watch soccer games, off to Boyertown to watch Stephen play ball, wrestling matches to watch Jeremy get pinned. Wrestling. He was up in Shiksheni watching you guys play ball. Who goes to Shiksheni to watch a baseball game? But he did, and they did. They didn't miss games. They didn't miss anything that their grandkids were involved in. And that's special. That means something. That means something to us, and that's important. Cub Scouts, yeah, we had a short time with Cub Scouts, very short. I think when we went to Camp Levine and about halfway through the night I threw up my scalloped potatoes, that was the end of the Cub Scouts for me. Dad had to pack us up and bring us home. And the list goes on of things we did, picnics. We spent Sundays at Brickett's Glen up at Lake Jean, going to Raystown, doing things that were just fun. But he was our dad, and he was there, and that was important. Then there was the fire. There were youth group. We lived at a swimming pool that Dad put in. heat in the pool so we could swim an extra month before and an extra month after. He just did things, little things that mean so much now as we get a little further on. And but the most important thing I'm going to tell you right now is that when Sunday came, we were in church as a family. And not only Sunday morning were we there for an hour service and run out and get to someplace to eat. We were there, and Sunday nights was an altar night for us in church. There was a men's prayer room. There was a place up front where the ladies went, but the men went back into their men's prayer room. I don't know if that was where we slept or what we did there, but we went back there. But my dad took me up front. We went back into that prayer room. He was there, and he prayed with me. And those are special times. That's what laid the groundwork. That's why I can stand here today and tell you good things about what God is and who He is. We all need to remember and reflect our own personal experiences. My life is different. Tammy got the first motorcycle. None of us had a Harley Davidson. Tammy had a Harley Davidson. Imagine that. Didn't trust us with a bike. And it was just a little dirt bike, but it ran around the house, and it was just something. And so we all have our memories. We all have our experiences. And some of them are good, and some of them aren't so good. You know, we're not standing here saying that we have a perfect family. We didn't. We're not the perfect family. Now, you guys are sitting here, and Ashley, you're the special one here. You took the last 2.5 years to be with Nana Pop-Up. She moved up here from Hershey to help us out and be here as our terrific helper. And I think Megan wants to say a few words about that whole experience.
I'm just gonna read this. I'm not gonna look at y'all. But hi everyone. Again, thank you for being here. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Megan. I'm one of Bill's granddaughters, and I was voluntold I'd be speaking for my sister Ashley today. Last week I was blessed with the chance to spend about 6 hours with Pop-Up and Ash at the hospital. He was sleeping a lot and had his hearing aids out, so we had plenty of time to reflect on kind of what he meant to us and share some memories together. So I'm going to try to summarize that a little bit here. It was impossible to go anywhere with Pop-Up in a timely manner. The man knew everyone in town and surrounding counties, and if by some odd chance he didn't see a familiar face, he made a new one. He would talk to a stranger, and they'd be chatting away for hours like they knew each other for decades. Ash and I talked about how we were called that being a little annoying when we were kids. We're like, we're just trying to get the ice cream. Let's go. But as we got older, it became one of our absolute favorite things about him, that he could connect with anyone no matter where we were. We also cried a lot that day, Ash and I, but it was not from sadness. So many of our memories of Pop-Up are full of laughter. And not the polite courtesy, oh, ha, ha, Pop-Up, like the abs hurting, tears streaming kind of laughter. He was funny and he knew it. I think all of us grandkids got to play checkers or rummy cube or bocce ball in the yard, and we left in tears laughing over something silly Pop-Up said. And I can't recall the words, but we knew the feeling, right? We never knew it was going to come out of his mouth. He was a little bit of a loose cannon, that one, especially towards the end. But once he started chuckling, it was game over for everyone. It was impossible not to join in and enjoy the moment with that man. He never slowed down. Whether he was mowing the lawn, and Ashley learned there was a correct and incorrect way to do that. Cleaning cars at the shop, which she now does with the boys and has become quite good at it. Carnival hopping with Nana, or sawing things in his garage, sometimes his fingers off. He was always moving. As you can imagine, aging made this a lot harder for him, and we saw the limitations his body put on him. He was a very prideful person and started to need a little bit more help than he cared to admit. And after Nana's stroke about 2.5 years ago, Ashley moved up here back to Berwick with the goal of helping him out at the home. And she spent every single day with him since that moment. Helping with chores, physically aiding him where she could. And that energy he had presented a little differently over these last couple years via putting together goofy cat puzzles, yelling at the Yankees games, picking on staff and his Celebration Villa neighbors. But he never lost that spark. Not until I'm telling you guys, last week he had us cracking up in the hospital with inappropriate jokes about how he was busy dying. He asked me how I was doing. I said, I'm fine. I said, how are you, Papa? He said, well, I'm busy dying, but otherwise it's fine. And then he went back to sleep. Like, the man never stopped with those sarcastic quips. There were rough days, of course, but mostly when Ashley looks back at the past few years, she's just really grateful. Grateful to get to know Papa in such a special way in this special time of his life, but also really grateful for the trust all the family gave her to be there with him. This is her story. All right. So I'm almost done, I promise. Ash and I talked a little bit about how we see so much of Papa and all of his kids and grandkids, and that uncanny ability to talk to anyone for long lengths of time. Maybe went on to this one. It slowed with each child, right? But Uncle Jim got that. Uncle Brad, our entire childhood, you've been making us laugh, and that reminds us a lot of Papa. Mom, his sarcasm and that look. That look Papa would give you? That mom has that look. And Uncle Brad, just that humble hustle you have at the shop and sharing the passion for not just the business, but just the hard work and family time with your boys. I see a lot of that in you, and we're all really grateful that we can see him reflected through each of his kids and each of us. So we're gonna miss Papa a lot, but we know we're never gonna stop laughing, telling those stories and seeing him in all of you. So thank you.
Dad was far from perfect. Oh, I'm glad you guys were sitting down. I didn't know if that would surprise you. My dad was not perfect, but my dad was perfect for our family. Each of us need to figure out the things that we can say helped us in our journeys, good and bad. I'm going to read real quick, because I know we're running out of time here. But this is scripture that you all know, I'm sure. There's a time for everything. There's a season for every activity under heaven. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to uproot, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to tear down and a time to build, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to scatter stones and a time to gather them, a time to embrace and a time to refrain, a time to search and a time to give up, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to mend, a time to be silent, which is now soon, and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, and a time for war and a time for peace. What does the worker gain from his toil? I have seen the burden that God has laid on men. He has made everything beautiful in its time. He has also set eternity in the hearts of men. Yet they cannot fathom what God has done from beginning to end. I know there's nothing better for men than to be happy and to do good while they live, that everyone may eat and drink and find satisfaction in all his toil. This is the gift of God. That's Ecclesiastes chapter 3. If you have a Bible, I'm going to look that over real close. There's a time. And right now, notice I said there's a time to live, a time to die. Every one of those have a good and a bad side. A bad and a good. Back and forth it goes. To let us know that life has its challenges. Life brings us a lot of different things. And so what have I gotten from Dad? I want to say good work ethic, even though I don't work anymore. I'm retired. Spend time with your family. Spend time in God's house and develop a relationship with God, with Jesus. This one is a negative, but make it a positive. Treat people that are different than you with respect. Dad sometimes struggled with that, didn't he? We heard his comments sometimes, and it made me wonder. I thought about the time period he grew up in and different things. It was just something there. So does that mean I'm holding that against him? That's between him and God. I'm saying, thanks for teaching me something good, Papa. Even if it was something that we thought was negative. Let's take the good. Let's not focus on the bad. And you know what? He's in a perfect place right now. And God's doing some great things. Hopefully Mom is doing okay too. And lastly, this is my last comment. Papa-Up's part of a chapter in a book. I shared his early days. I shared the time we had. I hope that Every one of us are creating chapters in this book. But you know what? This is not the last chapter. It's not the last chapter for him. He's there now, but he's left us with some responsibilities. I need to finish writing my book, which is part of his book. Jeremy, Stephen, Lucas, Caden, Kylie, Jace, and the ones in Arkansas, you guys are part of writing your own chapters, but it's all an extension of this book. The final chapter will be written when God comes back and takes us all home. Before then, honor your chapter. Honor where you are in this book. And let's do it the way I want this book to be on the #1 seller list. Okay? God will decide when the book is complete for all of us. Let's live a life that is worthy of being published and publicly displayed. And that's what we do today. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it. And we're going to do something a little different. We decided with the weather we're not going to go to the cemetery. We will, as a family, spend some time, and we will close the casket then. And if you want to be here, the equivalent to 5 minutes that we would spend in the cemetery to say our final words, we'll say here. And then that's why he's going out and going to take a nap next to Mom out of the cemetery. He's already with her. The spirit side of us is already there. The body side, it'll lay in the ground for a while, but we'll talk about that in just a few minutes. Thank you.
At this time, we're dismissing you from back to front with the immediate family last. After paying your respects, and you may return to your cars. Thank you.
Again, sorry about your loss. You're at the
Glasses. I haven't seen you before.
It was like this. So between the dark and the snow.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, hey guys, I did forget one thing.
Let me call him about that.
No.
Is the live stream on?
Oh, yes, you forgot that.
And don't forget his expired license.
I'll never have that.
And you know
Is
what?
cash in there?
He treasured this, all $37 of it. 34. Yeah, the other 10 back here. No. No.
And I have the Olive Garden gift card.
There,
There's a Panera Bread.
I already cleaned out the gift cards. You know. Want the wallet to go with them?
Yeah.
Talk about it.
We like his ring.
We want the ring, the watch. We know, and we'll take his glasses off. Okay?
That's what he says.
We'll close the casket and then whoever's left here, I'll just say some final words. Okay? Everything good?
You want me to close now?
I'll close the casket.
Anybody want to
Anyone?
Watch you stay.
Okay, guys, this is, I guess, our equivalent of being out trudging through the snow. Dad would love it if he knew that we were getting our feet wet and cold and falling and tripping. But I used to have a little black book that Judy's grandfather had. Somehow it disappeared on me, so I had to get one. I had to use an Ed2 book. I thought that would be appropriate. So I went to today's date. I just want to read these final things. Death for the Christian is not the end of life, but a new beginning. Rather than something to be feared, it is the point of transition to a fuller life. Death for believers is a release from the troubles of this world and from an earthly body, in order to be clothed with heavenly life and glory. Paul speaks of physical death as sleep, implying that death is rest from earthly labor and suffering. It means going to be with our godly ancestors who have died before us, and is the door into the presence of the living God. Again, this is living God. So as Christians, we should have no fear of death. Psalm 116:15 says, "Precious in the sight of the Lord is the death of his saints." Isaiah 57:2, "Those who walk uprightly enter into peace. They find rest as they lie in death." Psalm 73, "You guide me with your counsel, and afterwards you will take me into glory. Whom have I in heaven but you? And earth has nothing I desire beside you." Dad wouldn't come back at him. He wouldn't come back, even as much as he liked us. He's not coming back, because where he is right now is so glorious. "My flesh and my heart may fail, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever." So, if we were at the cemetery, I was simply going to say, so Mom and Dad's bodies are in the grave right now, lying side by side. And they are. There's two physical bodies that are going to be laying side by side in the cemetery. But together their souls have been reunited in the presence of God Almighty and their Savior, Jesus Christ. These are earthly bodies, and they were never equipped to handle heaven and eternity. This body couldn't handle that. But now the promise. 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verses 13 through 18, and this is for us too. "Brothers, sisters, we do not want you to be ignorant about those who fall asleep, or to grieve like the rest of men who have no hope. We believe that Jesus died and rose again, and so we believe that God will bring with Jesus those who have fallen asleep in him. According to the Lord's own word, we tell you that we do, and we who are still alive, who are left till the coming of the Lord, will certainly not precede those who have fallen asleep. For the Lord himself will come down from heaven with a loud command, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trumpet call of God. And the dead in Christ will rise first. After that, we who are still alive and are left will be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. And so we will be with the Lord forever. Therefore, encourage each other with these words." We need to lift each other up. We need to hold. Funerals are not meant to speak to the dead. Dad didn't hear a word we said today. We need to be moved into a closer relationship with God through his Son, Jesus Christ. We all need to be sure that we're going to be part of that trip to heaven. And that's what I believe today. I want to see everybody in this room on that day. That's going to be quite a journey. It's going to be quite a trip. And we're not there. And I really don't know the proper words, but I guess we commit his soul, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. This is a physical body that's going to be changed and we're going to just all be together. We're going to be perfect for the rest of eternity. But before then, encourage one another. We're going to enjoy our time together, and we don't forget about each other, but rather we keep praying for each other, and we're going to do this. Okay? They started the legacy is here. It's up to us now to do what we need to do on that. That's my encouragement for you guys today. We are going, but before we go, I showed Jace this morning. I don't even know how I got this one, but This is Papa. He was a puzzle guy. And this is the Connor family portrait. You're all Yankee fans. If you're not a Yankee fan, there's a person down, there's a dog down here that could care less. Michael, okay. So your job today is to determine which is correct, or is, but figure out who you are in the picture. What's your level of? So this is, I'm taking this on as my personal puzzle that Dad made, but it was made with love, yes, and some frustration. No, the 500 to 1,000 pieces were the frustration. Okay, guys, we're having dinner at 1, which is still. I did okay. Nobody got a hook after me? Okay. But we're going to the forge. And anybody that you can think of that was here, we need to invite to be part of our get together stuff. Okay? Thanks.
Yes. Anybody that wants flowers here, they're not going to the cemetery. Anybody want
We can
to?
help you out.
Except for the Catholic story.
Jeremy,
They take him at Silver.
where's Kate and Lucas? Reed.
No. I've seen them.
I need muscles.
Funerals.
It's not gonna mess up your golf swing, is it? And anybody that can help, we're gonna need help getting the casket out.
Make sure you're on the right side.
That's it. I'll put it up for him.
Oh, and I'm also.
Come on. I'm gonna buy it.
See, this is the next one.
Okay, gentlemen, if we can have 3 on each side, please.
I would always be so
Watch your step when you come out. Do a good step there.
YouTube.